You're watching Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Today's show is sponsored by Hexclad. You can get 10% off the best pans on the market at hexclad.com/chatsports. We'll tell you more about Hexclad coming up later on in the show. Today, we're talking about the workouts that the Seahawks have given to a couple of notable names. I'll tell you who they are and their chances of potentially joining the Seahawks coming in a moment. Also, Pete Carroll has weighed in on what's going good and not so good for the Seahawks 3 weeks into the regular season. And Zach Charbonnet off to a strong start to 2023. We'll examine how things are going for the rookie back coming up in a matter of moments. Folks, we are battling our Giants Now channel in new subscribers from now until kickoff on Monday Night Football next week. You can see they got a little bit of an edge so far. I want to beat Marshall Green. Go home, Marshall. Well, let's beat him in new subscribers this week and show why the 12s are the best fans in the National Football League. Subscribe now for the latest happenings on your Seattle Seahawks right here each and every day on Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. So let's begin with Anthony Brown, as the former Ravens quarterback worked out with the Seahawks on Tuesday. Brown, an undrafted free agent in 2022 out of Oregon, and he was released by the Ravens practice squad back on September 4th. And he does have a little bit of playing experience. Last year, when Lamar Jackson was down and Tyler Huntley was down, he ended up playing in 2 games and had one career start last season there with this Baltimore Ravens team. Now, I'll say this. I don't mind giving Anthony Brown a practice squad spot potentially, but let's be real here. Based on the small sample size, Anthony Brown, it ain't good. He's not an NFL caliber quarterback. Last season, in those 2 games played, completion percentage was below 45%. That's worse than Tim Tebow. Had 309 yards, 2 interceptions. Anthony Brown, if he's the solution you're looking for, you're not going to find him. Now, at the moment, the Seahawks are only carrying 2 quarterbacks on the roster when you talk about the 53-man and the practice squad. So you have to think that they will bring in somebody. Maybe Holton Ahlers comes back or somebody else, whether it's Anthony Brown, whatever. I don't expect that to last long term. Somebody will sign, just a matter of who it is for that potential third quarterback. Another workout on Tuesday. The Seahawks brought in former Rams wide receiver Tavon Austin on Tuesday. And Tavon Austin, a very familiar name for college football fans, as he had an outstanding career at West Virginia, was teammates with Geno Smith with the Mountaineers as they dominated the Big East together. He was a journeyman in the NFL, playing for the Rams, the Cowboys, Niners, Packers, Jags, and the Buffalo Bills. But it's been a while since Tavon Austin has taken the football field. We have not seen him in an NFL game since 2021. The numbers on Tavon Austin, they are not too kind to the eye in the last 4 years. As you can see, in 2021, he had 213 catches, about 9 yards of reception, and 1 touchdown. I'm not getting my hopes up, if I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes to Tavon Austin, a guy that just hasn't played since 2021, that hasn't been that productive in his career. But if there's one silver lining of what Tavon Austin could potentially bring to the table, is his ability when it comes to special teams as a return specialist. I'm not thinking that Tavon Austin's going to be out there as an impact receiver of some sorts by any means. But if there's any chance, watch out for him potentially as a special teamer of sorts. I would bet a lot of money that Geno Smith was the one that was able to get him that workout with their connection of those two going way back. If you had to pick one for the Seahawks to decide, which one would you rather have, Anthony Brown or Tavon Austin? Type AB for Anthony Brown. Type TA for Tavon Austin. Our pinned comment today. Weigh in. Tell us what you think, which guy you'd rather have. AB for Anthony Brown. TA for Tavon Austin. Pete Carroll this week took some time to reflect on the first 3 weeks of the Seahawks 2023 season with 8 different takeaways. Mostly good, but a couple of things to work on from where this Seahawks team is at to begin the season. And where we begin with Pete Carroll and his takeaways is what he had to say about the crowd playing a factor early in this season. A lot of credit was given to the performance of how the 12s delivered Sunday, specifically with the false start penalties that the Carolina Panthers acquired. Here's more from Pete Carroll. What a great impact they had on this game. These guys had 8 false starts. What a great factor. That was a thrill. And Pete Carroll is absolutely right on that. The 12s delivered. It's why it's the best home field advantage in the National Football League. They showed up. They showed out. It was great to see. No question about it. All right, guys, it's time to talk about your kitchen. And no, I'm not talking about your roommate's dishes in the sink. Today's sponsor, Hexclad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of nonstick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy them. Go to hexclad.com/chatsports for 10% off. Hexclad truly checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. Don't just take my word for it. Celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay uses them at home too, saying, "The sear I get with these pans is incredible with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using Hexclad at home." Get this. They are the sexiest pans on the planet, folks. Score points at home. It's time to stop ordering delivery food and start cooking like a big boy with Hexclad. Real cuisine isn't made in the microwave. It's cooked in a Hexclad. For a limited time, get 10% with our special link, hexclad.com/chatsports. That's 10% off at hexclad.com/chatsports. And I want to take a moment to show you these pans so you can see for yourself. Here it is in all its glory. And I got to tell you, this thing looks fantastic. You better believe when I'm cooking at home, I'm using Hexclad because I want to be styling, profiling, and eating good. If you eat good, you look good, you play good, right? Hexclad. Get yours today. Hexclad.com/chatsports for 10% off. Next on Carroll's takeaways, he talked about finishing the fight and the improvement that we've seen from the Seahawks in how they've finished football games the last 2 weeks, comparably speaking to what they did week 1. And, I mean, you look at the numbers. Take an example of where the Seahawks were at when it comes to how games started to how they finished. The one game that they led at halftime in the first 3 games, the Rams game, they were up 13-7. They went on to lose. The Lions game, they trailed 14-7, went on to win that game. The Panthers game, they trailed 13-12, and they went on to win that football game. So Pete Carroll really liked what he saw from his team so far of how they've been able to play in the second half of games. Carroll also emphasized the run game on both sides, that he just likes what he's seen from the Seahawks in the run game offensively, that's really headed in the right direction, but in particular the run defense. And that was a big theme for the Seahawks entering 2023 was how the run defense would hold up. And you look back at last week, Seahawks held the Panthers to just 44 yards on 14 carries. And the Seahawks offense had 146 yards on 33 carries. So all of that very positive. The Seahawks want to establish the run to open up the passing game, and they need to stop the run defensively, and they did just that this past week against Carolina, so more of that going forward. Also, Pete Carroll pointed to 3 rookies in particular that have caught his eye so far this season. One of those, Jake Bobo, and Pete, talking about Jake Bobo, said that he wants more Bobo, like the rest of us do. And that touchdown was great to see that he had there in the fourth quarter against Carolina. Zach Charbonnet, we'll talk more on him coming up later and what he's done so far in the season. And then Devon Witherspoon missed the first game, but we have already seen through these first 2 weeks that Devon Witherspoon has the makings to be a star in the National Football League. The other big positive takeaway from Pete Carroll was how much the injured Seahawk players have stepped up. When you look at going into this week, Diggs, Metcalf, Love, and Reed were all questionable of sorts going into this week's game. And then on top of that, those guys, they were questionable, but they all stepped up, especially what we saw from DK and Jaron Reed and company. Those guys really performed. And Pete Carroll had this to say specifically about those injured guys who answered the call. Those guys didn't get much work in at all in practice this past week. They just wouldn't not play, and they sucked it up and made it through their injuries, and all had really solid games for us. It's a great visual for our young guys to show what it takes. Now, as far as the negatives, or where the Seahawks go from here, Pete Carroll emphasized that there was work to do offensively going forward. And I think we all kind of point to the Seahawks' lack of success when it comes to the third downs we've seen the last few weeks, and then not converting some of those drives to touchdowns when they were field goals. Pete saying this about the red zone offense. We were lousy on third down, and we were lousy in red zone scoring. And that goes back to the next point of converting on those third downs. The Seahawks have to do a better job of that going forward. I want to show you some statistics of what we mean by this, of where the Seahawks were at. This past week against Carolina, Seattle went 3 out of 13 on third down attempts. And they settled for 5 field goals from Jason Myers. And nothing against Jason Myers. But think about this. All 5 of those field goals that they settled on were of 43 yards or shorter. So those were golden opportunities for the Seahawks to get touchdowns that they pooched away and settled for 3. You'll take the points, but those are missed opportunities, and you can't continue to let that happen. You got to stay out of the friend zone, get into the end zone. And then lastly, what Pete Carroll talked about as far as negatives, defensively, an emphasis on busted coverages. There was one instance in particular that I think you will remember quite well when the Panthers had that 47-yard touchdown pass to DJ Chark from Andy Dalton, and it was just a busted coverage. DJ Chark was wide open. I mean, hell, I could have made that throw based on how open he was. And just those lapses in coverages, can't let those type of things happen. Otherwise, he sounded pretty content with how the defense has performed to this point. So a lot of interesting things to take away from. Hard to disagree with what Pete Carroll had to say there. What's your biggest takeaway from the Seahawks and their 2-1 start so far this year? Sound off in the comment section. Let us know what you think of where Seattle stands right now. Last but not least on today's show, Zach Charbonnet is drawing a lot of cool comparisons as he has shined throughout the first few weeks of the season. There's been rumblings comparing him to the likes of Marshawn Lynch and Thomas and Chris and those guys. Some good company to be mentioned with. Now, the stats may not be flashy, 16 carries, 73 yards, but we've seen the moments, and it feels like things are building for Zach Charbonnet in the right direction. And from what I've seen in these first few games, there's a few things that have caught my eye when we're talking about Zach Charbonnet. Number one, he's delivering the boom on defenders. He is not afraid of contact. He's showcasing that physicality. I think between him and Kenneth Walker, you're looking at like a thunder and lightning situation where they're going to feed well off each other and be a really good 1-2 combo, I think, for years to come. And he's got that willingness to bully guys around, that he's going in, I think, with just that aggressiveness that you love to see from a running back that's not afraid to take that contact. And then the other side of it, you look for a running back that can block. And we've already seen from Charbonnet a strong run-blocking ability, and that makes things more flexible to use those 2 running back packages to have him and Kenneth Walker on the field at the same time, the fact that he can do that. So Zach Charbonnet, good start to the year. Small sample size, granted, but I think you're going to be very pleased with the end product of what Zach Charbonnet becomes when it's all said and done. How would you grade his season so far, A, B, C, D, or F? I would give it an A, quite frankly. I know the numbers aren't flashy, but he's doing the little things and showing signs that he's going to be a fantastic football player Grade it for me in the comments section what you think of Charbonnet so far. Subscribe to Seahawks Today for the latest happenings on your favorite team. Got a fantastic watch party coming up this weekend. Live show tomorrow as well. We will see you then. Thanks for joining us here on the channel.